Hey guys, it's Blue Eyes Master 91, and I thought today I would do a Blackwing deck profile. Um, I'm still in the midst of trying to find a good build since the recent ban list for this deck, but I'll give you what I have so far. For this deck, I have 3 copies of Simoon the Poison Wind, which allows you to search out your copy of Black Whirlwind, which is an extremely useful card. The downside is you take damage. If you control no monsters and have this card in your hand, you can banish one other Blackwing from your hand. Place 1 copy of Black Whirlwind from your deck face up in your spell and trap card zone. Then either send this card to the graveyard or immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon it without a tribute. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn except dark monsters. You can only use this effect of Simoon the Poison Wind once per turn. During the end phase, send the Black Whirlwind you place with this effect to the grave and take 1,000 points of damage. So that is a big downside to it, but just being able to search out your copy of Whirlwind is extremely nice to have. So I think that the upside is a lot better than the down. Then we have 3 copies of Bora. If you control a Blackwing monster other than Bora the Spear, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage. So Bora is a fantastic 3-of in this deck because of how easy it is to summon him out. And the fact that he is able to deal piercing damage is nice too. We then have 3 copies of Blackwing. Harmattan the Dust. If you control a Blackwing monster other than this card, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon Blackwing Harmattan the Dust once per turn this way. When this card is normal or special summoned, you can target one other Blackwing monster you can control. Increase that monster's increase this card's level by that monster. So Harmattan the Dust is a level modifier, which is extremely nice to have in this deck because it revolves around synchro summoning so much. So next we have 3 copies of Oster the South Wind, which is one of the first tuner monsters in the deck. It's a level 4. It cannot be special summoned. If you control it, when this card is normal summoned, you can target one of your banished level 4 or lower Blackwing monsters. Special summon it in defense position. You can banish this card from the graveyard to activate one of the following effects. Place black feather counters on one Blackwing monster up. One Blackwing dragon you control equal to the number of cards your opponent controls. Place 1 wedge counter on each face-up monster your opponent controls. Face-up monster your opponent controls that does not have one. So the first effect, the black feather counter, is a lot more useful than the wedge counter in my opinion. Just because if you get Blackwing Dragon out and utilize that effect, you can deal massive damage, which is always good. Next we have our level 2 tuner monster, Blizzard the Far North. This card can also not be special summoned. When this card is normal summoned, you can special summon one level 4 or lower Blackwing monster from your graveyard in defense position. So like with the South Wind, you are able to special summon monsters from your graveyard when he is normal summoned, with the downside being he cannot be specialed. Next, we have 2 copies of Gale the Whirlwind. Gale is a fantastic 2-of. I'd almost say you could run 3 of him without an issue, but 2 is not a bad amount. If you control a Blackwing monster other than Gale the Whirlwind, you can special summon this card from your hand. Once per turn, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls. That target's attack and defense becomes half its current attack and defense. So Gale is a level 3 tuner monster that can be special summoned and is able to weaken your opponent's monsters, which is extremely useful. Next, we have a copy of Zephyrus the Elite. Hold on. And this monster is elite for a reason. He is extremely useful. If this card is in your graveyard, you can return one face-up card you control to the hand, special summon this card, and if you do, take 400 points of damage. You can only utilize this effect of Zephyrus the Elite once per duel. So, it used to be once per turn on this card, but upon its reprint and being let off the ban list, it was deemed that its effect was too good to be used more than once per duel. So that is an extremely useful ability. Next we have Blackwing Chris the Crack of Dawn, Pinaki the Waxing Moon, and Kalut the Moon Shadow. The Waxing Moon is a level 3 tuner monster. I believe all three of them can be... the Crack of Dawn can be special summoned if you have another Blackwing out on the field. You can only special summon him out once per turn. And then also once per turn, it cannot be destroyed by a spell or trap card effect, which is pretty nice actually in today's game. Cannot be used as single material for a single summon, except for a Blackwing synchro. During the end phase, so this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there from the field this turn. You can add one Blackwing monster from your deck to your hand, except this card. You can only use this effect of the Waxing Moon once per turn, so he is a searcher when he is in the graveyard. And he is limited to only Blackwing synchros, which is not an issue. And then our Moon Shadow. During either player's damage step, when a Blackwing monster you control is attacking or being attacked, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard. That monster gains 1400 attack until the end phase. So he is an attack increaser, which is pretty nice to have. We then have a single copy of Hurricane the Tornado, which once per turn you can target a synchro monster on the field. This card's attack becomes that monster's current attack until the end phase, or end of the turn. Which that's not a horrible effect either, though being level 1 and having 0/0 as your natural attack is not great. Next we have our Shira the Blue Flame. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the grave, you can special summon one Blackwing with 1500 attack or less from the deck. That effect, though the monster's effect, is negated. So that's actually not a horrible effect, just because you can spit out other Blackwings that you might need to go into different plays. Next, we have our single copy of Elfin the Raven. If you control a face-up Blackwing monster, you can normal summon this card without a tribute. When this card is normal summoned, you can change the battle position of one monster your opponent controls. So, excuse me, sorry. He allows you to summon himself out without a tribute when you have another Blackwing, which is never an issue in this deck. And he allows you to switch an opponent's monster's position, which is pretty nice as well. Next, we have a single copy of Gladius the Midnight Sun. If the only monster you control is one face-up Blackwing monster other than Blackwing Gladius the Midnight Sun, you can special summon this card from your hand. Once per turn, this card cannot be destroyed by battle. That is another really, really good effect because it allows you to keep him alive. Then we have a single copy of Mistral, the Silver Shield, a level 2 tuner monster. This card is on. If this card on the field is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, reduce the battle damage you take from the next attack to 0. So he allows you to basically give. He basically win Karibos, but only one attack and not multiple. And then for the last card in the deck, we have a single copy of Aurora, the Northern Lights. This card cannot be normal summoned or set. Must be special summoned from your hand by banishing 2 face-up cards you control. 1 Blackwing tuner monster and 1 non-tuner. Cannot be special summoned other ways. Once per turn, you can banish 1 Blackwing Synchro from your extra deck. Till the end phase, this card's name and original attack becomes that monster's and replace this effect with that monster. So, Aurora the Northern Lights was Crow's way around the Mechlord Emperors in the anime. He is not honestly a super good monster. He's really useful if you need to discard. But other than that, I have not really had a use for him in the sense of utilizing him for an attack. He's very difficult to get out just because you have to have a tuner and non-tuner on the field. Which, in all honesty, isn't horrible, but if you have a tuner and non-tuner on the field, it's just easier to go into a synchro than into Aurora. He is very, very situational, specifically if your opponent is using Mechlords. So next we have our Black Whirlwind playset. When a Blackwing monster is normal summoned to your field, you can add 1 Blackwing monster from your deck to your hand with less attack than that monster. So this is a great searcher for the deck. It lets you get into your plays a lot faster. Then we have 3 copies of Allure of Darkness, which is a great 3-of just because all the monsters in your hand are going to be dark. And like I said with Aurora, you can banish. This card allows you to draw 2 cards, and then you have to banish 1 dark from your hand or the entirety of your hand if you don't have a single dark type in your hand. Which Aurora is a light type monster, but that is the only card in your hand that's not a bad thing. Especially since, depending on when you activate it, you could only have the 2 cards you draw on your hand, and you could immediately set them, making it so you don't have to get rid of anything. So that's it on the spells. For the traps, we have 3 copies of Black Sonic, 2 copies of Backlash, 1 Delta Anti-Reverse, and a Compulse. So, the best card out of all these is definitely going to be your copies of Black Sonic. When an opponent's monster declares an attack on a Blackwing monster you control, banish all face-up attack position monsters your opponent controls. If you currently control exactly 3 Blackwing monsters and no other monsters, you can activate this card from your hand. So it's an early version of a hand trap and allows you to banish everything your opponent has. With Backlash, you can activate only when your opponent's monster declares a direct attack while you have 5 or more Blackwing monsters in your graveyard. Destroy all monsters your opponent controls. So that's another really useful trap just because it gets rid of everything on the field. Activate only while you control a face-up Blackwing monster. If you control exactly 3 Blackwing monsters, this card can be activated from your hand. Destroy all face-down spell and traps your opponent controls. So this is another early version of a hand trap that allows you to get rid of all your opponent's spell and traps, which is really useful. So that is it for the main deck. Let's dive into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we have, I'll dig it out because I need to. We run 2 different copies of Blackwing Dragon. Blackwing Dragon is just too good in this deck to not run, in my opinion. He allows you to eat up effect damage, and he can deal massive damage with the black feather counters. If you were to take damage from a card effect, place 1 black feather counter on this card. Instead, this card loses 700 attack for each black feather counter on it. Once per turn, you can remove all black feather counters on this card, then target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. That target loses 700 attack for each black feather counter you removed, and if it does, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attack lost by this effect. So this card, that effect is fantastic. It allows you to deal massive damage as well as allows you to sidestep a lot of effect damage. Next we have a single copy of Full Armor Master and the regular Armor Master. Full Armor Master is completely unaffected by other cards. Unaffected by other card effects. Each time the monster your opponent controls activates its effect. Sorry, I've been talking a lot today. Place 1 wedge counter on that opponent's monster, maximum of 1. After that effect resolves. Once per turn, you can target 1 monster your opponent controls with a wedge counter. Take control of it. Once per turn during your end phase, destroy all monsters on the field that have a wedge counter. So that effect is really useful. I like the unaffected by other card effects effect. That is phenomenal in today's game and makes this card extremely powerful, in my personal opinion, obviously. The original Blackwing Armor Master cannot be destroyed by battle, and you take no battle damage from battles involving this card. At the end of the damage step, if this card attacked a monster, you can place 1 wedge counter on that monster, maximum of 1. You can remove all wedge counters from your opponent's monsters. The attack and defense of those monsters that have wedge counters becomes 0 into the end phase. So he's another really, really good effect monster that allows you to basically neuter monsters on your opponent's side of the field, making it so that they have no attack and defense. Next we have Blackwing, New Thung, the Starlight. If this card is special summon, inflict 800 points of damage to your opponent. Then 1 face-up monster your opponent controls loses 800 attack and defense. You can only use this effect of Blackwing Nathong the Starlight once per turn during your main phase. You can normal summon 1 Blackwing monster in addition to your normal summoner set. You can only use this effect once per turn. So he allows you an additional normal summon on top of dealing 800 attack or 800 life point damage and weakening an opponent's monster by 800 attack and defense. In my opinion, that's another really, really good effect. Next, we have a single copy of Assault Blackwing, Anamuru, the Divine Thunder. If this card is synchro summoned using a Blackwing monster as material, it is treated as a tuner monster while face up on the field. Cannot be destroyed by card effects. You can target 1 Blackwing monster in your graveyard. This card's level becomes the same as that monster's. You can only use this effect of the Divine Thunder once per duel. If this card that was synchro summoned using only synchro monsters attacks, this card gains 3,000 attack during the damage step only. So, a lot to digest with this one. Sorry, I needed a drink. This card's effect is fantastic because it can modify its own level. And if it's summoned using only synchro monsters, it gains 3 grand in attack. Which, odds are you're not going to do that. But it's still a really, really good effect to have. Because being able to gain 3,000 attack is just well, honestly, it's evil, in my opinion, because, I mean, who's going to be able to stand up to that? Next, we have Chidori, the rain sprinkling. If this card is synchro summoned using a Blackwing monster as material, it is treated as a tuner monster while face up on the field. This card gains 300 attack for each Blackwing monster in your grave. When this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can target one winged beast type synchro monster in your graveyard, except this card. Special summon it. So, Chidori, the rain sprinkling, is another really good monster because it is treated as a synchro tuner monster as well. So that does allow you to go into the Divine Thunder to gain that secondary effect of gaining 3,000 attack during the battle, or the damage step. But odds are you won't need to go into either of them. But if you do, that's a really good backup strategy to have. Next, we have a single copy of Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. Once per turn, when another monster's effect is activated, quick effect, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that monster. And if you do that, this card gains attack equal to the destroyed monster's original until the end of this turn. If this card battles an opponent's monster's level 5 or higher monster, during the damage step, this card gains attack equal to the current attack of the opponent's monster it is battling during that damage calculation. So, Crystal Wing's a great negate, and it can get really big really fast because of the attack gaining effect. We then have 3 copies of Raid Raptor Wystrix. I had this end when I was using Smorg. I have yet to find a good replacement for that Link 4. But I'm going to continue to look and see what I can find. Then we have a single copy of, I'm not entirely sure why this is in here, but Rasterliger. It is a Link 4. You can target one Link monster in either graveyard. This card gains attack equal to the number to that target's attack into the end phase. You can tribute any number of your opponent's card this card points to. Destroy any equal number of cards on the field. So this is just a board wipe in a sense. It's not horrible. I'm not sure if I'll keep it in or not. I do have a copy of IP Masquerade because why not? And a copy of Warlord Dragon because why not? That is it for this deck. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and drop a like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video.